Morning and welcome. I am Hiroshiko Miyama, President of the University of Tokyo. It is my great honor and privilege to serve as a chair for this session and present six distinguished speakers. Mr. Arden Bement, Director of National Science Foundation, USA. Prior to joining NSF, Mr. Bement was with the National Institute of Standards and Technology, where he was named director in December 2001. Dr. Chang-Gyu Fang, a president and corporate CTO of Samsung Electronics Company Limited, Korea. Dr. Fang was president and CEO of the semiconductor business before assuming his current position. Professor Karin Malkides, president of Chalmers University of Technology, Sweden. She is also a board member of CESAR, I don't know how to pronounce it, CESAR, the Swedish Globalization Council, and high-level group on the competitiveness of the chemicals industry in the EU. Dr. Ryoji Noyori, president of RIKEN, Japan. Dr. Noyori is also professor of Nagoya University. In 2001, he was awarded the Nobel Prize in Chemistry. Mr. Kapil Sibal, Minister of Science, Technology and Earth Science, India. Mr. Sibal, an eminent constitutional lawyer, has been in the current position since May 2004. Mr. Jürgen Thumann, President of Federation of German Industries, Germany. Prior to assuming his current position in January 2005, he was president of the German Equestrian Federation. The theme of this plenary session is the role of science and technology in the 21st century. As a representative of academia, I would like to spend a few minutes to talk about the role of universities in promoting science and technology, particularly in the context of global sustainability. Just a week before the G8 Hokkaido Toyako Summit held in July this year, we held the first G8 University Summit under my chairmanship, and the theme was global sustainability and the role of universities. In this summit, leaders of the universities from the G8 and other nations discussed how universities can contribute to the promotion of global sustainability. Universities' traditional role has been to generate and feed knowledge to society and policy makers and work with them through university government, university industry, and other forms of collaborations. While necessary, these are not adequate for the universities of the 21st century. The university leaders agreed that we should play a more proactive role of a driving engine for social and political movements capitalizing on our neutrality. Based on the understanding that no single institute is capable of tackling the complex and intertwining issues of global sustainability, a number of research networks have been established worldwide. The summit participants agreed that it is time for us to go a step further, connect these networks, and create what we call the Network of Networks, NNS. A university, in a way, is a microcosm of society, and therefore we consider that another important role of universities is to use our campuses as a model for a sustainable society. Consistent with this thought, the University of Tokyo had been actively promoting sustainable campus activities, including Todai Sustainable Campus Project, TSCP. With this, I would now like to ask our first speaker to come up, Dr. Noyori, please.
Thank you very much for your introduction. I spent over 40 years as an educator and a researcher at university. And since 5 years ago, my primary duty has been management of a research institute. Based on such experience, I'd like to speak on the topic, what we should be doing for the future generations. The most important task for mankind is to know what to inherit from the preceding generation and what to pass on to the next generation. But the ignorance and lack of ethical sense of the people of this generation is threatening to undermine the basis for undertaking this task. The wisdom of science and technology is not to participate in the weakening of the basis of the survival of humankind, but to contribute to the peace and welfare of the future generations. The extreme expansion of the industrial activity started in the 17th century, mainly in Western Europe, and the recent population explosion, mostly in Asia, are contributing to the devastation of the global environment and human habitat. Dr. Jonas Salk, the discoverer of polio vaccine, voiced a warning against population expansion as early as 1985. In essence, what he said was that since the global resources were limited, an exponential population increase was impossible. And in the near future, the human population might drastically decrease and humankind might become extinct. To avoid such catastrophic and to reach a stable condition of zero growth in the near future, he suggested a change of our sense of value. But regrettably, even after more than 20 years since his warning, we have not been able to change our way of thinking, and the crisis of the world with 63 billion people is becoming ever more realistic. The environmental doomsday clock, which indicates the degree of crisis of the human survival, shows 9:33 p.m., the worst ever. The problem of modern society is the limitless greed of people and the absence of the sense of mission by the leaders of many countries, or their evasion of responsibility because of their inadequate ability. In particular, the out-of-control activities of the financial sectors, not the real economy, in recent years, have brought on various inequalities globally, and they are shaking the foundation of the human survival. They definitely should not be allowed to continue. First, it's indispensable that to change the sense of value, which promoted economic growth based on the global spread of market economy. The excessive economic growth means increased societal entropy, and it brings about a deterioration of the quality of society. Economy is a usual means for us to live, but we should remember that it's never the purpose. Scientists and engineers should not become slaves to the economic system of mass production, mass consumption, and mass waste, but they should contribute to changing this system. In the 21st century, self-reliance and coexistence is important. We must search for ways how each nation under different circumstances and all people in the world become self-reliant, and how we should cooperate with one another within the limited framework of the earth. All nations of the world and all individuals must make every effort to be self-reliant, but extreme unilateralism profit-centeredness and unreasonable exploitation by powerful people should not be allowed. The scientific community must bear the responsibility to promote scientific understanding of Earth-related problems. We must present scientific evidence for the way the present state has come about, and they need to make reliable predictions for the future. Engineers must work towards the development of the technology for human survival, that is, sustainable technology, transcendent mere economic advantage and the narrow-minded national interest. But unless nations engage in this task with determination on the global level, it's unlikely that this task will be achieved. Tolerance and self-restraint are required for advanced nations, and for developing nations, a shared common ideal to solve these problems is required. Global environment and human activities are inseparable. Serious problems are often caused by human actions. How did humankind live in the past, and how should we live the present and the future? In order to come up with enriched lifestyle for the new generations, all-encompassing virtue and wisdom and education, which transcend mere technical problems, are needed. Recently, the quality of life is interpreted extremely narrowly in Japan, and the foremost demand on science-based technology is to contribute to the improvement of the quality of daily life, but it's merely transient and materialistic in nature and is wrong. Science-based technology should contribute to the quality of human life. This quality includes a longer time scale and a spiritual element. The societal value is integrative rather than differentiative. How good this quality is should be measured by a sufficiently spiritual element in addition to the materialistic element. And science-based technology in the 21st century must be in accordance with this concept. I hardly think that many of the present-day science-based technology, which are commercialized and developed for human convenience, are contributing to the improvement of the quality of life in its real, true sense. In order for people to live happily, a reasonable amount of material wealth, as well as freedom and health, and the social order which respect culture are needed. At present, when the deterioration of a spiritual element is quite obvious, a return to humanity is most important. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Noyori, for your deep insight. I believe we are not slaves of anything. Thank you. Next speaker, Mr. Bennett, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm greatly honored to be invited by the Honorable Omi-san to provide some comments on the future of science, engineering, and technology in the global context. One need look only at newspaper headlines to see that in almost every field of endeavor, from politics to economics, foreseeing the future is a risky proposition. But it's an essential exercise in these troubled times. Experience has taught us that money invested in science and engineering research and education yields exceptional returns. Yet when we look to the future, we can legitimately ask, can science serve the global needs in the face of unprecedented change? Here's one answer to that question that I find still apt and appropriate to the global science and technology enterprise. These words were uttered more than a half-century ago. Quote, Science by itself provides no panacea for individual, social, or economic ills. But without scientific progress, no amount of achievement in other directions can ensure our health, prosperity, and security as a nation in the modern world, unquote. Those are the words of the visionary science advisor to President Roosevelt, Vannevar Bush. In the late 1940s, he saw that the way to improve civilian prosperity was to harness scientific and technological innovation. The challenges before us, once again, require us to focus on how such discoveries can contribute to meeting vital national and international needs and objectives. Among these, three stand out as compelling, urgent, and most significantly ripe for progress. These are energy, environment, and economy, or the 3 E's for short. As members of a global community, we all need to invest in and explore alternative energy sources to ensure continued economic prosperity and a rising quality of life for all people, most especially those in developing countries. Today, the Earth's climate and life support systems are changing in ways and at rates that both surprise and also worry us. We have yet to grasp the sometimes abrupt responses of these complex systems to external forces, both natural and human. There can be little doubt that we have recently made advances in understanding each of these systems independently. It is when we attempt to establish sound policies for these three systems working in combination that we are confronted with their inherent interactive complexities. New information and communication tools can increase our understanding of these interrelationships. In this respect, today's interdisciplinary international research teams require open access to a broad range of cyber resources to advance such understanding. Networking, open data protocols, and the development of virtual organizations are important ways to provide broad access to these resources across borders. But we must look toward higher levels of computational capabilities to cut the Gordian knots of complex coupled systems. Petascale capabilities will permit researchers to develop the needed models that are intrinsically multi-scale or that involve multiple simultaneous reactions. Moving on to address the third of the 3 E's, the economy, we cannot forget that science and engineering are the engines of recent worldwide economic growth. That is, rising productivity and new jobs. We also know that sustainability means a sustainable economy, not just sustainable natural resources. And we must remember that issues and problems of today and tomorrow have not only technological and scientific dimensions, but also a human one. One example is the need to understand obstacles to the adoption of energy-saving behaviors by individuals, groups, and organizations. What we should not sustain, however, is inappropriate and wasteful energy use and the resultant degradation to the environment. Researchers in the economic, social, and behavioral sciences, in collaboration with their colleagues from other disciplines, should address these and other broad social and policy-informing challenges. The ability to forecast trends based on coupled systems analyses and higher levels of complexity can facilitate advances in forecasting future trends at smaller spatial and temporal scales, economically viable mitigation and adaptation strategies to global climate change and resultant ecological threats, and improved tools for science-informed assessments and decision-making, just for example. These are grand challenges worthy of the global scientific enterprise. No one nation can solve these problems single-handedly. International collaborations among all nations are necessary in any effort to develop new understanding and solutions. The U.S. National Science Foundation is investing in new scientific and engineering capabilities to enhance international collaborations in coupled energy, environmental, and economic systems to include the building of a petascale cyber infrastructure that will enable converting massive data collections to knowledge and modeling coupled systems at higher levels of complexity, establishing high bandwidth network links with all regions of the world to enable sharing data and information in real time, and establishing virtual communities that can conduct collaborative research at any time, at any place. Complementing our long-term ecological research sites with a national ecological observing network to observe ecological impacts caused by climate change, aridification, invasive species, and human and natural forcing functions. Joining with other Arctic nations to build an observing network to measure changes in climate, biota, and ocean circulation in the Arctic. Joining with the U.S. Agency for International Development to facilitate research collaborations with developing nations in such areas as water, energy, food and nutrition, invasive species, and disruptive events. Joining with NASA and NOAA in using our high-altitude instrumented aircraft to observe ice sheet stability and the effects of atmospheric aerosols and particulates on glacier melting and the Earth's albedo. In most research areas, NSF is accustomed to working in partnership with private industry in transferring technology and reducing it to practice. Such partnerships need to be extended to our research collaborations with developing nations. Finally, NSF has long linked the social and behavioral sciences with the physical sciences in exploring human factors in grand challenge problems of national and global scales. Such interdisciplinary research is critically needed to achieve the sustainability of complex coupled systems. We look forward to working with the global community in addressing these critical challenges. Arigato gozaimasu.
A bit for you were focusing on the networking on interdisciplinary, international, intersectoral approaches. Thank you very much. And next speaker, I would like to have Mr. Shibaru.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, my fellow panelists, distinguished delegates. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to talk about science and technology in the 21st century. The march of civilization owes a debt to science and scientific discoveries. History bears testimony to that fact. As science seeks to unravel the mysteries of nature, we get closer to finding out both about our origins and our destiny. Prior to the 21st century, we used science as a tool to overwhelm and conquer nature. Over centuries, we crowded nature and got estranged from it. We considered ourselves a part and not an integral part of nature. We never realized that scientific solutions of the past are responsible for the scientific challenges of the future. I might just name a few. Antibiotics, we consider it a solution for human health. It challenges us today. The Green Revolution, a solution for food security, has turned into a gray revolution. We now need an evergreen revolution. Nuclear energy, the solution for electricity, is also a threat to civilization, just to name a few. The Industrial Revolution brought home to many the munificence of science for human prosperity. 250 years later, the reasons for that prosperity threaten our very existence. Civilization is at the threshold of the precipice of uncertainties. Global warming and climate change represent a real threat to human health, food, and energy security, along with the environment. These are global challenges, yet science alone can provide solutions for resolving them. For science to provide a solution for these challenges, we need a new social compact. We need to learn from nature, which accepts the interdependence of all living creatures, the innate connectivity of life in all its forms. Modern civilization embraced the virtue of independence over interdependence and espoused the cause of segregation over integration. Our new social compact must accept the holistic landscape of nature. Just as the scientific revolution has resulted in the crumbling of barriers, human barriers need to be dismantled. We must move away from knowing more and more about less and less. We need a systems approach and interdisciplinary integration. Zealously guarded disciplinary turfs are crumbling rapidly and irreversibly. The ICT revolution, with its seamless flow of knowledge, has dismantled geographical barriers. The global flow of goods and services enabled by an S&T revolution has brought peoples together. The world is truly a global village. The new social compact must nurture the value of cooperation and collaboration. This is, in a sense, inevitable, for the challenges we face are common, formidable, and unprecedented. Science is not going to be the disparate, isolated pursuit of distant laboratories. Solutions to problems of climate change, environmental pollution, natural hazards and disasters, and global pestilence requires meticulous planning and a systems approach for target-oriented breakthroughs. The challenges of today bind us today as never before. The new compact of the 21st century must be that of cooperation, collaboration, and inclusiveness. Solutions lie not in smart negotiations or stealthy strategies, but in science and technology pursued collaboratively. By collaboratively, I mean the synergy between the university system, academia in general, entrepreneurs in society, and national governments. The sequencing of the genome and the study of genomics and proteomics have opened up new possibilities for human health. ICT and the geospatial technologies will provide limitless solutions for a range of human enterprises. Nanotechnology and R&D in alternative energies brings hope for energy security. Plant genomics and genetic engineering for agricultural produce might provide the solution for food security. Synthetic biology might help us generate scarce resources of nature. Yet we need to tread carefully, lest our solutions for today become the nightmares of tomorrow. The new compact requires a new quality of collaboration. We need a new architecture to tackle the diseases that afflict the poor, TB, malaria, Kala Azar. Perhaps we need an open source drug discovery platform, an innovative way to deal with human health. We need innovative management structures. The economic meltdown has brought home the truth that unbridled consumption, pervasive monetization, and profligate profiteering need to be curbed. We have been naive to think that economic prices reflect ecological truths. Scant regard to ecosystem services at the hands of nature. Indifference to the loss of biodiversity has lulled us to believe that man-made capital can entirely replace natural capital. Such beliefs and ways strike to the root of sustainability. And as we move forward to find solutions, we must not forget that underneath this seemingly flat world is a very uneven landscape, where of the 6.7 billion people, 3/4 of them live in poverty. The danger of the digital divide may isolate us from those who seek science to solve their problems. As we, through the high end of science and technology, find solutions for our survival, we need to find simple and affordable solutions for the survival of the common man. As we combat the challenges of the future to manage our destiny, we need to provide solutions for the destiny of the poor and the deprived. That is a part of the new compact. The world is a chessboard. The pieces are the phenomenon of the universe. The rules of the game are what we call the laws of nature. The player on the other side is hidden from us. We know that his play is always fair and patient. But we also know, to our cost, that he never overlooks a mistake or makes the smallest allowance for ignorance. Let us prevent the mistakes of today. Let us be wise, not ignorant, to protect the future destiny of mankind. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sibar. A very excellent and thoughtful talk. I'd like to invite next speaker, Mr. Tuman. Mr. Tuman, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Chairman Omi, Minister Chavan from Germany, ministers from all over the world, ambassadors, excellencies, scientists, fellow business leaders, ladies and gentlemen. The role of science and technology in this century is of outstanding importance. Our countries are facing tremendous challenges. We have to protect the climate and ensure our natural resources are used efficiently, secure our energy supply. We have to combat disease, expand our communication and transport infrastructures. The growing population, urbanization, and global warming present us with challenges we simply have to succeed in tackling. These tasks demand the concerted energy, creativity, and action of industry, science, and politics, and all over the world. We need new ways of thinking, innovations. By the way, a nice example of innovation is right in front of me. And you can find this at any conference. It's a microphone, which almost enables me to whisper in your ear as if you were standing beside me. The microphone came onto the market about 150 years ago. It is still being developed today, also in Germany. They get smaller, they get better, and more precise. Scientists and technicians in many disciplines have contributed to developing a fine-tuning this technology. But let us turn back from the microphone to the global macro level. Many countries are increasing their activities in science and research. The so-called catching-up countries, with China leading the way, are investing massively in research and development. Developments that I welcome and admire. The more nations that contribute to the scientific and technological advancement of our civilization, so much the better for humanity. In Europe, where I come from, many things are happening too. In 2002, in the European Union, member states agreed to increase their levels of investment in research and development. The level to 3% of GDP until 2010. 1% shall be contributed by the government and the other 2% by industry. Because research results must be applied, they must be implemented. We have to use them to develop products, services, and processes. And we should not forget, good research and good business are both children of freedom and competition. They are twins. They should not be separated if they are to be successful. The European Union has resolved to create a European research area. Researchers should be able to move flexibly between various institutions, disciplines and countries, and also between industry and science. To enable them to do that, national employment and social security systems must become more open. And a strong European research area requires much more than that. It also needs excellent research and education facilities that form clusters and engage in public-private partnerships. The European Union is currently building a top research and education facility. With this model in mind, the European Institute of Innovation and Technology. Europe needs world-class infrastructures that are equally accessible to all. Examples are particle accelerators, supercomputers, space laboratories. A strong European research area must also offer effective protection of intellectual property. This is a condition for turning new research results into commercial successes, for turning them into genuine innovations. The EU is heading in the right direction, but we still have a long way to go. Industry, science and politics must keep working on joint innovation strategies. In order to do this, we also depend on cooperation with partners outside the EU. And I therefore repeat what I said here in Kyoto last year. We need to develop global roadmaps together in order to meet the challenges that face humanity. All countries and regions in the world must contribute their specific strengths and abilities in this joint effort. International cooperation is what we need. The organization I represent, the Federation of German Industries, is dedicated to promoting cooperation between science and industry on an international level. A good example for our work is a recent bilateral project, Partner for Innovation, which involved the BDI, the German Federal Ministry of Education and Research, and JETRO. In Germany, the BDI is supporting the government's high-tech strategy, which aims to boost Germany's innovation ability in 17 different fields of technology. This year, ladies and gentlemen, the BDI presented a roadmap for Germany, the Manifesto for Growth and Employment. In cooperation with over 100 companies, fields with future potential were identified, and the manifesto outlined strategies to develop them. Innovation ability is mainly rooted in a highly educated population, outstanding science, and early close cooperation between industry and science to open up new market potential. One strategy the BI manifesto recommends is to create education markets and expand research markets. We firmly believe that even high-risk, long-term research can be financed on a competitive basis. The government can transfer public universities and research institutes to knowledge enterprises that compete with each other. In 2007, at the G8 summit in Heiligendamm in Germany, the German federal government took a leading role in setting up an international research agenda. The BDI manifesto contains many suggestions of this ambitious plan. Ladies and gentlemen, it is hugely important for the voice of industry to be heard clear and loudly. Industry must be included in this process to ensure that science and research, together with industry, produce innovations. Innovations that contribute to solving the global challenges that we face. This conference is an important milestone on the way to a global roadmap. We cannot only describe the problems, we have to agree also on steps and to develop an ambitious timetable. Despite of all actual financial problems the world is faced with. Investments in education and research lead to innovation and growth. Our host, Japan, has proven it, a perfect example. And it is to Chairman Omi, the founder of the STS Forum, that we owe him our very special thanks. We need this conference to be successful so we can continue the challenges of the 21st century together, science, politics, and industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Turman, for your very encouraging speech. Thank you very much. I would like to invite the next speaker, Dr. Fan from Samsung. Dr. Fan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to imagine that we live in year 3008. How would the future people define the age we are living right now? They would probably define this age as the Stone Age of the IT era. Well, it means more opportunities. And it means it is us that need to create such opportunity for the following generations. So today, I'd like to talk about where the technology seems to be headed and how companies are preparing for it. If you look at past, like in the 80s, the electronic industry represented by color TV was main industry. Then in the 90s, PC led industry. Now, digital consumer and mobile products are leading the IT industry. Samsung was also able to become what it is now as it grew together with such industry trends. However, it is time for us to leave all these glorious achievements in the past and predict the future technology, market, and industries. New business will be created to read the future lifestyle for another several decades. How will our lifestyle change after 2010? As people are living longer and longer, they want to stay healthier, have more fun, and live more conveniently. So, I would like to summarize future lifestyle in 3 keywords. First, customized entertainments. It means everything will be interactive and virtually real, thanks to achievements of broadband network, and high-level display technology. For example, if broadcasting companies send content frames, the viewers can create their own TV drama with actors and actresses of their own choices. Viewers will also be able to dance with a virtual partner through 3-dimensional hologram video. Second key word is intelligent living. As digital devices function become more intelligent, they will be able to interact with them, read our minds, and even share feelings. Depending on the user's mood and weather, so-called smart closets will select clothes for you every morning based on sensor technology such as RFID. Last keyword for future is healthy life. Until now, our healthy life focus on curing diseases. However, in the future, the concept will be extended from cure to care, which means we prevent diseases before they occur. We will be able to informatize nature, such as the breeze of the ocean, the scent of the forest, and reproduce it wherever you are, allowing you to have a healthy and stress-free life. It may sound like a faraway story, but it is possible through fusion technology. It's not just the fusion of the technologies or devices. It will be fusion of different industries, such as biotechnology, nanotechnology, energy, robots, space, and environment. While many companies around the world is putting so much effort to prepare for fusion technology era, one thing is clear. It is not and won't be easy for a company alone to respond to fusion technologies. Companies need collaborations from different companies and laboratories. Companies need help from academia and government. We also need high-quality human resources from different fields. And they must be someone who are not only professionals in one area, but flexible and creative enough to incorporate other things and make something totally new. And social system must be made that is open to new things and embraces different people, different technology, and different industries. The fact that we are all here together explains how much we are aware of the importance of collaborations. I hope that this forum will be the settle point for the fusion technology era. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fan, for your expressing your own vision. Thank you very much. Last, but certainly not least, I will invite the Karin Markides of Chalmers University, Institute of Technology. Sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I will also want to thank Chairman Omi for making it possible for me to be here today and take part in this very important and interesting forum. I would like to talk to you, ladies and gentlemen, about the role of science and technology from a technological university perspective. We have been reminded during the STS Forum about how the future of humankind will require urgent technology shifts for most branches, and how ICT is just in the beginning of its transformation of the global rules for science and technology. How all countries and people need to be part of the same development, and how sustainability is a philosophy and needs to be involved as a system-level approach. The technical universities of today have an important role to play to build the trust among the public, young and old, among the politicians, with media, and all stakeholders involved in shifting technology to long-term sustainable alternatives. Chalmers is a university of science, technology, architecture, and maritime education, research, and innovation. We are situated right in the center of the challenge, of this challenge and possibility that I just described. Chalmers is also a company. It's owned by a foundation and with a long and short-term agreement with the Swedish government. It is an autonomous university with a good amount of freedom and responsibility to move in the direction of its vision, to work for a sustainable future. To move in this direction, we have set up the operation of the university so that systematic strategy is driven by ideas and influences and not by the short-term economical situation. The ideas and influences come from inside and from the outside and will support each other throughout incentives, mobility, local and global activities, and strategic collaborations. Public-private collaboration is common, involving all three objectives of education, research, and innovation. Career tracks to make students and faculty to become plus scientists and plus engineers is part of the strategy. The human aspect is very important. Disciplinarity and transdisciplinarity are both important in education and research, as well as communication skills that are prioritized for different languages among scientists and between regions and cultures, and of course, outreach. The point that I want to make with this talk is the developing countries could build own capacity and competitiveness now if they make technology leaps in collaboration with selected clusters. And Chalmers, in accordance with its vision and within its capacity, will work in this direction. It is important to get funding stakeholders aligned to support this type of development. The time is short, and there are many reasons why we need to act now without any delay. First, the gap is continuously widening between developed and developing regions, and it will be more and more difficult to reach a sustainable future for many regions. Second, the role of the university is reviewed at this time in many countries, and it is an opportunity to also make this role to include global responsibilities. Third, at Chalmers, we have developed incentives for growth in clusters of strength. In these clusters, a number of centers of excellence are, together with basic research environments, selected master programs, research infrastructures, and the innovation system, collaborating with local and global stakeholders. The role of the university is to be responsible for the cluster, its growth, and to make it dynamically integrated with the rest of the university and leading stakeholders in the world. As an example of this development, I'd like to tell you about a research strength at Chalmers in the connection to vehicles, roads, and transportation. This is an example that addresses the challenges to manage increasing transportation needs, including safety, alternative energy, management systems, smart infrastructures under conditions that do not compromise with the needs of the general living conditions. Mobility and transportation are cornerstones in the modern economy. All efforts to minimize the need for transports are certainly welcome, but it is difficult to see how an efficient economy would work without the need to move people and objects. The area of transportation has also grown tremendously in the recent years. The infrastructure has developed accordingly, in a symbiotic manner with existing older urban and rural landscape. Europe may have been more conservative than other developed regions in the world to keep the cities as they once were laid out. The cultural values are considered important, although they cannot easily be transformed into economic assets. However, even in the most dynamic economies, there are limits to how quickly and how extensively our settlements and systems can be changed. We need to consider the extent to which we build ourselves into an infrastructure that we will have to live with, and which will limit our future options to modify or change or build environments. New infrastructures in the world need to support a more efficient transport system and build on concepts that help the technology shift to occur. We are now facing a global environmental change, where sustainable transport system is a key. In order to continue the global evolution while protecting the world for future generations, the future sustainable transport system must therefore be greener and safer and more robust and efficient. Based on the paradigm shift, the coming 10 years within the automotive sector, electrification to make it simple, it will require new methods and processes in terms of how the business models will evolve. Test trials and pilots should be developed in close interaction with customers with different local and cultural needs. A sister center of excellence fitting with the transportation research cluster at Chalmers at a selected location in a developing country can become a natural driver for a concept solution, as well as supporting smart generation of energy and selected production. It should also provide a technology jump for the supporting infrastructure that could be adapted for a sustainable future in the country and competitiveness in the world. Examples like this would benefit everybody involved, and it would make universities take a closer step to lead a planet-saving strategy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Speakers kept the time very accurately, and we don't have no time now for the next session. And thank you very much for the excellent speeches and for all for the participants. Thank you very much. This concludes this session. Thank you.